Hey guys, Waterfowler41 here, and in today's video we're going to be replacing my front sway bar end links. So I've been watching SuspensionMaxx's website for a while. I figured they'd eventually come out with some extended sway bar end links for the Ram truck, and sure enough, the last couple weeks they did release their kit. So here we are looking at their kit. So this is going to give you two advantages. One, this is supposed to be 3/4 of an inch longer than the factory sway bar end links, which means for those of us running levels or pretty high lifts in the front that didn't do like the whole diff drop and the whole sway bar spacer kit, this is for you because this is going to take some attention off those factory sway bar end links by having an extended sway bar end link. Second thing is these are completely serviceable, meaning you could pull this apart, replace all the bushings, put it back together, and you're good to go. And it's all grade 8, so you're good to go from that perspective. This is probably going to outlive the car probably these days. So anyway, the bushings themselves are all replaceable, and these things look absolutely gorgeous. They're going to look great underneath the truck, and from all the reviews I've read about these things is they actually perform very, very well compared to the factory end links. And again, because we have a lift kit or a leveling kit on the truck, this is a absolute must in my opinion. So again, been waiting for these for a while, so I'm really excited to get them put on the truck. As far as tools, so to remove the factory sway bar end links on the bottom bolt, you're going to need an 18mm wrench as well as an 8mm socket. The 8mm socket's going to hold the end cap of the sway bar link, and then with 18mm you could turn the nut. Then on the top of the sway bar end link, you're going to use what's called a crow's foot. So this is a 19mm crow's foot that attaches onto a 3/8 inch ratchet, and then you're basically going to use this guy to get access to the bolt on the actual end link itself. You could also use an adjustable wrench like this. I went out and picked one of these up. I want to see how well this works. But 19mm bolt on the top. Again, you're going to have to use an 8mm on the center of that bolt, and then the nut is 19mm. The nut is 19mm. Bolt itself on the end of it is 8mm. So let's get up underneath the truck and I will show you how to remove the factory end links. If you haven't touched your end links in a while, definitely hit them with some PB Blaster or some WD-40 to at least get some of that rust away. End links get really dirty, and when you're backing that bolt off, if you're backing it through dirt, it's going to make it kind of a pain in the butt to get off. And the top end link is really difficult to get to. So try to make your life as easy as possible. Prepare PB Blaster, hit that guy probably a day ahead, and then you should be smooth sailing. So let's get up underneath the truck and start removing those factory sway bars end links. All right, I went ahead and just pulled off the passenger sway bar end link, and I wanted to show you out from underneath the truck how these things are removed. So you see on the shaft itself, it's shaped like a hex nut. This is where you put that 8mm socket, and then you on the bottom you use an 18mm wrench. On the top you use a 19mm wrench and an 8mm socket. That flexible or the hinge ratchet was awesome for this. You could have used the crow's foot, but actually the flexible 19mm wrench worked perfectly on this. And again, I blasted them with some PB Blaster, so it's perfect. But here you go. Here's a side-by-side of the SuspensionMaxx versus factory. So you can see you still have that angle and everything, just like the ball joint here for the factory sway bar end links, but you notice there's a considerable distance. So you got about another, looks like 3/4 of an inch, I think is what it ended up coming out to be. So 3/4 of an inch length that's added to this sway bar end link versus this guy. So let's go up, get underneath the truck, and remove the driver's side sway bar end link, because the way you install these guys is you got to remove both of the factory links first. That way your sway bar has some play in it, and then you can go back and install these things. So the way these work, you notice they are angled. So the end links, the angle part is going to angle towards the internal or towards the engine side. So you're going to have the wheel here, engine here, sway bar, wheel. So this will be, we'll treat this as our passenger side one, but I guess it could work as either because you could rotate it. But everything comes pre-packed already. You're good to go. You could rotate this to be whatever side you want. But ultimately, when it goes on the truck, this is going to go on the factory side, kind of leaning in like that. And then we're going to use this one on our passenger side. So put that washer on there, lower control arm. Then you got this crown nut, I think is what they're called. Then up top here, you have an angled piece. You have a thin angled washer, and then you got a nut. You need to make sure that this goes on one side of the sway bar end link, or one side of the sway bar goes here, and then this angled washer is parallel to this angled surface. That way it accounts for the angle that these end links approach on the end of that sway bar. We'll take a look at that when we get underneath the truck, but let's go ahead and remove the factory driver side end link and start installing the SuspensionMaxx end links. All right, so we're up underneath the driver's side and we're going to remove the driver's side end link. So we have the bottom bolt right down here. This is where you take that 8mm socket, put it on the end of there, 18mm wrench, and you wrench that nut right off there. Then up on top, you're going to reach up behind the sway bar, grab that 19mm with a 19mm ratcheting socket or ratcheting wrench, put an 8mm socket on the end of it, and crank that guy loose. You can see everything looks pretty wet because I hit it all with PB Blaster. I would highly recommend doing that. It's kind of a tough angle, and anything you could do to make your life easier by removing that, definitely do it. But like I said, that where's my miracle tool? This guy was super helpful for getting access because it's kind of a weird angle to that top 19mm nut. So let's go ahead and remove this. And like I said, you got to remove both factory end links before you start to install the new ones because they're longer and you need to be able to move the sway bar up and down to account for it. And ultimately what this is going to do is return our sway bar to somewhat of a factory angle, so it's going to perform much better and not put as much stress on the end links. Not that there was a ton with the lift kit that I have on there, but any bit of improvement I could do with a 3-inch lift kit on here, I'm definitely going to do it. All right, so we have the two factory sway bar end links pulled off the truck. They really don't look like they're in that bad a shape, but these look much better. Anyway, here is how you install it. So first thing you want to do is remove this bolt. You're going to want to leave that washer on there because that washer is going to go on the top of the control arm, and this bolt is going to go on the bottom of the control arm. Nothing else goes on there. Then on the top here, you want to be mindful. Again, you want to make sure that this channel is completely flat, straight through. It's kind of at an angle, but you want to make sure that the fat end of the washer is up at the top and the skinny end is at the bottom, so it mimics or it's parallel with this little spacer here. Then we're going to use a 19mm socket to tighten both these. Nice thing about these guys is they're just straight bolts. They're not these end links where you got to hold the 8mm. These are just a straight bolt, so I'm just going to need that 19mm guy. And then we will torque them down to, I think, 50 foot-pounds, front or top and bottom, and then we'll be good to go. So let's get these guys up underneath the truck. Busted a knuckle. Let's get these guys up underneath the truck and installed, and we'll take a look at how they look, and we'll see how they perform. All right, so we have our sway bar end link assembly ready to go in. Basically what I'm going to do is pop it into the top of the sway bar and then just drop this guy right down through the lower control arm. I need two hands to do that because I'm holding a washer here, and then I want to make sure that I thread that that tapered washer on the top end link or top portion of that end link properly. So gonna need two hands here, but basically it's just a drop in right now. And again, you want to make sure that it's angling towards the engine because that's how this little bracket here on the bottom accounts for the angle to the sway bar. So again, the sway bar is super easy to move around. Make sure you don't tighten down one end link before you install the other one. Just put them both in loosely and then go ahead and tighten them down together. All right, so we are installed. So again, I inserted the top of the end link into the sway bar. Sorry, right here. Top of the end link first, and then I dropped everything down into the lower control arm. I had to push up on the sway bar just a tad to get everything to sink down, but other than that, everything is good to go. So 19mm bolt nut on the bottom, 19mm up at the top, and again, the real hero here was this guy. This gave me the weird angle that I needed to get to the top portion, and then I just used an impact on the bottom to get that 19mm on there. I'm going to torque these bad boys down to 50 foot-pounds, go over and finish the other side, and then we're going to take it for a test drive. But so far, it looks sweet. All right, end links are completely out. New end links are completely installed. Let's go over the installation one more time just so you all got everything squared away. First thing you got to do is remove the factory end links. So that is an 18mm nut on the bottom with an 8mm shaft, and then a 19mm nut on the top with an 8mm shaft. Get a crow's foot or get that articulating wrench to get this guy out, particularly for that top guy. Same thing on the passenger side. And then to install the SuspensionMaxx ones, it's a 19mm bolt in the bottom and 19mm nut in the bottom, 19mm nut through the top. You don't need to worry about the shaft spinning because that's not how the SuspensionMaxx end links work. They're basically just a straight shaft with urethane bushings in there. And then you torque everything down to 50 foot-pounds. So it's much easier to reinstall these guys than it is to uninstall this because you really don't have that much room on the top. But I'm going to take the truck for a test run, and I'll let you know my final thoughts in a minute here. All right, just took her for a test drive, shook her out. Everything is working as it should, and the ride is extra comfortable. I don't know if it's placebo effect since I just replaced them. I'll give it a few miles before I really opine on whether they did anything more than took the stress off my factory end links. But they look great, they perform great, and I honestly kind of feel like the sway bar isn't as harsh as it was before. So I think we're in good shape. But otherwise, that's how you install the SuspensionMaxx sway bar end links on your 2019 and newer Ram truck. Thank you very much for watching.